Welcome to SAM Conversation, an online program of South Asia Monitor. I'm Col Anil Bhat, and it is my pleasure to introduce to you three very experienced sailors: Commodore Ranjit Rai, Vice Admiral Pramod Bhasin, and Commodore Sunil Nandan Singh. Our topic today is the lethal role of the Indian Navy in the 1971 India-Pakistan War. It's also a great pleasure to have an old association with all three. Commodore Ranjit Rai is from our school, St. Columbus, maybe a decade and a half senior to us. Vice Admiral Bhasin is a course mate and close friend of my brother, Ravi Malhotra, and we have had the pleasure of being hosted at his place when we went to attend the passing out parade of my brother in the Indian Military Academy in December 1962. And Commodore Sunil Nandan Singh is from the same squadron in National Defence Academy, Echo Squadron. And it's great to see him here because he's one of those who was fortunate to to survive, to come out as a survivor after INS Khukri was hit. He was a young midshipman then. I think it was a great time for the Indian Navy to finally, after two decades of independence, not being used in 1947-48, not being used in 1965, finally being used in 1971, and with very telling effect. For the then Chief Admiral S.M. Nanda, Sardari Lal Mathuradas Nanda, also affectionately known as Charles. It was a great moment for him when he got the green signal from then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, because he'd studied in Manora near Karachi, and he wrote in his book, he said it was great because I knew Karachi like the back of my hand. So, and there was, I think, an excitement in the Indian Navy of their being now, being prepared to fight against Pakistan. I will not go. There's so much more to say about the role of the Navy, but I think we leave it to begin with from Commodore Ranjit Rai, who will give us an overview of the various operations that the Indian Navy undertook in the 1971 India-Pakistan War. Sir?
Well, it's a great idea that you have recognized and you're going to put forward that great war. I'll start with just a small beginning. You know what happened in East Pakistan, the repression. Mujibur Rahman won the mandate, but Bhutto and Yahya Khan said they will do. They repressed East Pakistan. Refugees started pouring in. And of course, Mrs. Gandhi wanted war. But she asked General Manik Shaw, who said, no, the monsoon is coming. It is absolutely true he did. Of course, Mrs. Gandhi used it for political purposes and delayed the war because she was under pressure. But by July, the plans were ready for the war. By August, the Indian Navy was even more ready. The missile boats from the Russia or Soviet Union had come into Calcutta. They were being towed to Bombay. I was one of the people towing them. We were all ready. But Krishnan and other brains were said, these are patrol boats, but we will send them to Karachi. And that is the story of Karachi. Admiral Nanda, He had said in 65, we'll go to Karachi. Now we come to the fleet. There was an argument, what is going to be the fleet? Vikrant was not ready. Pilots were called back. Vikrant was ready. And then Admiral Krishnan took over the Eastern Fleet, a brainy admiral. Admiral Kohli took over the Western, and was on the Western Fleet. So they were given their ships. There was a lot of fighting with ships, but Vikrant had a slow speed. Pilots were called up, and she was by September, October, sent off to work up off the Andamans and pretended she was going to Visakhapatnam. So Ghazi started coming to Visakhapatnam. Now the role of the ships were all clear. The fleet commander, Admiral Kurwala, was given a missile boat with Captain Gandhi, and he was said, tow the missile boats. And when I tell you, if the war begins, bring the fleet to Karachi. Unfortunately, now we come on the day the attack took place, 3rd of December. And Mrs. Gandhi announced that a war on Bangladesh or East Pakistan is a war on us. 8 million refugees. Huxer had told her, don't start the war till you go around the world. There were bad words used by Nixon. And of course, Kissinger said to her when he was seeing her off, Madam, you could have been more polite. Now the war was on. The missile boats in the fleet, the fleet was seen by a Cessna. Third night, when Mrs. Gandhi gave that speech, Admiral Nanda was saying, for God's sake, where is the fleet? I happened to be in MOR Bombay, and we reported there was radio silence. That is the time he told Admiral Kohli, come on, get on with Top Trident, which earlier he was a little hesitant. But by golly, Admiral Kohli rose. Admiral Krishnan had Vikrant, and he let go Vikrant. Poor Ghazi thought Vikrant was Visakhapatnam, and so Rajput, and she sank.
Ghazi,
so
sir,
the war had begun.
For the benefit of our viewers, if you could explain Ghazi, Pakistan naval ship Ghazi.
Well, Pakistan naval ship Ghazi,
You just reproduced it.
sorry, Ghazi, she was actually not ready for war, but she was sent to Visakhapatnam thinking she'll get Vikrant. But Indian Navy started information warfare, and Admiral Krishnan worked up Vikrant in the Andamans. So poor Ghazi, there were depth charges coming on top of her. She was trying to charge her batteries. There were mines on board. So today, even it's a mystery. She exploded. 2 fishermen went and reported, Chintamani was the name, reported that they have a life buoy. Then the lighthouse reported we saw a flash. Now the war had begun, and I'll leave it to others to tell you more about it. But as we move on, I can tell you the whole story is in this book, A Nation and Its War at War. So therefore, I'm lucky to have seen it as a DNO, the chapters, been in the operations room, but I leave it to the others, because all I can tell you, the war had begun. The aircraft from Vikrant were flying to Chittagong, Kornapalli, the missile boats of Trident were on their way. Mysore was a little away from things, and you know the Air Force and the Army. So the war had begun, and let the others tell you about the war.
Thank you very much, sir. I think you put it in a nutshell very nicely. But it also needs to be mentioned that this was a war really fought in a, you can say, Kautilyan or Chanakyan mode, where all, first of all 3 services were very well, they cooperated very well, and their coordination was excellent. Vice Admiral Bhasin, sir.
Anil, just
Sir.
let me tell you coordination. There was a meeting with General Manekshaw, Admiral Nanda, and Air Chief Marshal Lal. They
Sir.
were sitting together. They used to talk in Punjabi. And Admiral Nanda said, I have permission to go to Karachi. I want 1 strike.
Sir.
And Air Chief Marshal Lal said, it'll be very dangerous till we get the Drigg Road radar. And you know what Field Marshal Manekshaw said? Ek chota pra, ek strike mang rahe hai, or de de na de de. Therefore, by accident, by happenstance, 4 hunters went to Kemari on the 4th morning.
Great nugget of information, sir. Admiral later Field Marshal Manekshaw grew up in Lahore, so he spoke very chaste Punjabi. Anyway, Admiral Bhasin, sir, you please share with us some of the very important and invaluable work that was done by you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I'll be very factual as far as my own work was concerned. I was just a lieutenant, and I don't know what is the political part of it and what the operation parts was, but let me give you a synopsis of the concept of the missiles coming into a third world country. We were the only ones. There was a passing interest in Egypt when the Egyptians fired down that Elliot, but that went unnoticed. But how we used our missiles were really worthwhile, and the whole world talked about it. Basically, the missiles which we got and the missile boats which we got, they were actually a replacement of coastal batteries. We have coastal batteries all around Bombay for our protection. Middle ground was just next to the dockyard. So primarily, they were known as mobile batteries. However, we had gone to the Soviet Union in about September 98 to learn about the missile boats, learn about the technical positions, the preparation of missiles, the instrumentations, everything what was required. We were there for 11 months and we got a full training, and the Russians cooperated to the hilt and gave us all the training. We came back in September 69, and between September 69 and the end of 69, the equipment had started coming from Russia. The missile boats like Commodore Ranjit Rai said, we were towed from Calcutta, etc., and came back to Bombay. Now, in Bombay, the missile boats, a couple of them go for trials. And while firing the missiles, it struck the higher authorities that we should get away from the defensive role and go into an active role. It is then a subcommittee with then Commodore Madholkar and Chief of Staff Commander Kopika was formed to study the role of how to use them. This is, mind you, still in the early parts of 69. So these two gentlemen visited all around the coast and prepared a paper, which, I mean, it didn't come down, but was that we will tow the boats to near the Karachi, and about 50 miles away from there, which was the range from where we could have fired the missiles, we will leave them on their own and do the job. Okay, that's one part of it. Simultaneously, we had two mobile TPs being set up, one in the Naval Dockyard in Bombay, another one in Gujarat. And we had equipment worth 2 TPs with us. So one TP in a temporary form was set up at Bombay and another one at Gujarat.
Sir, pardon me, could you please elaborate on TP?
TP, I'm sorry, I'm using it is known as a TP, the technical position, where all the technical work on the missile, its preparation, etc. goes on. And it is thereafter transferred by road, actually should be in the seaport and should be loaded on the ship. But our own positions were not ready when we started thinking on this. So we set up a temporary position in, what's that place called? Okay, I'm forgetting the name. Next to BRC it is. And we set up the temporary positions from where we prepared the missiles, brought them to the shore and loaded it on the missile boats. The trial which we carried out in India with the missiles were excellent results. We got all good hits. And that's how we set up these missile boats. And the last minute trials were carried out under my supervision. And I'm glad to inform that 90% of our missiles went and hit the target. And 2 of them, though misbehaved, did go and hit Karachi port and burst the fuel chambers over there. Though my colleague, Commodore Ranjit Rai, may differ on this subject, But as far as my knowledge goes, and the talk of those days, that these missiles began rode and hit the Karachi coast and exploded the oil reserves of the Pakistanis. This is some sort of a synopsis of how the missile boats were used in an active role. And I must say that the Navy carries the full credit for this, changing a conventional mobile battery into an active, producing results, and destroyed thousands of tons of the Pakistani shipping. I'm ready to answer any further questions on that because it's a very short synopsis I've given you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. If I may mention, sir, there's a class fellow of mine from St. Columbus who worked for the Pakistan International PIA, Pakistan International Airlines, and he was posted in Karachi in the sometime in mid-70s, and it's indeed interesting, and also I think something which the Navy will feel, Indian Navy will feel very good about, because it was a compliment to the Indian Navy. He was told, आप लोगों के जो Navy है, उसकी गोलंदाजी अच्छी थी, क्योंकि उनके गोले मिसाइल वगैरह सारे सिर्फ नेवी को लगे, हम पे कोई नहीं पड़े, which I think was a very good compliment to the Indian Navy, that your gunnery is good. you guys only targeted the Navy, naval assets. You didn't cause any collateral damage to us.
I must say, the Russians really well trained us on the subject, and we had gone through every aspects of the missile boats and the missiles. And that is why, in a very short period of time, we were able to establish our positions within a period of 3 or 4 months. And we had an operational Navy going around for attacking Karachi harbor, which was very, very, very commendable.
No, sir, there's no doubt. And in fact, I think it's worth sharing that when Pakistan acted up in Kargil, when we had the intensification of the conflict in Kargil, then God bless his soul, Admiral Sushil Kumar, who was the chief then, was kind enough to share with me that the Navy played a very silent but a very effective role of having the summer exercise, the entire Eastern Fleet moving into Western waters, and which eventually, it is from the Gulf that the Pakistan came to know that your West Coast, you can be sorted out much more than you were in 1971, and they started getting the jitters, and that was one of the major reasons for their stopping whatever they started. Anyway, it's again a credit to the Indian Navy. Commodore Sunil Nandan Singh, it's great to have you with us here, and I think we'd be much richer in our knowledge if we come to know exactly what. It's very sad that we had to leave. We had to lose one of our great ships in 1971, INS Khukri. Would you please share your experiences with us?
Anil, I'd start about some point in time in October of 71. We were midshipmen that time, and we were operating in early October. We were operating from ships in the eastern side. Like I was on board the Brahmaputra, and that time, as per our annual training program, we were to get together in Bombay for the month of November for our midshipmen's board. So the entire 38th Navy course, it turned up in Bombay, and we were living in Colaba for the midshipmen's board. And towards the end of November, when the midshipmen's board result was announced, the war was just about there, a month away, or rather less than that. And some of the midshipmen who had failed in the board, they were told, beta, you stay back, we will have separate orders for you guys. So I had a coursemate of mine, Midshipman Patil, late Midshipman Patil, who says, SN, why don't you come with me on the Khukri? Nice ship, very nice crew, very nice captain. So I said, okay, no problems. So I actually volunteered to go on board the Khukri. Anyhow, so around the 25th of November, I found myself on board the Khukri with my coursemate, Midshipman Patil. And we knew things are happening because there were too many of these, fat envelopes, and with nothing much written other than very fat envelopes. And whenever one was doing duties, we could see fat guys coming and things. We knew something's happening. And sure enough, the third evening, war was declared, and three ships, that is Khukri, Kirpan, Kuthar, out of which Kuthar had a problem with their boiler. So Kirpan was told to take Kuthar on tow, and Khukri was told to escort these two ships, come back to Bombay for repairs.
If you could please just, INS Khukri was, the other ships were INS Kuthar and INS
Kirpan.
Okay, that's it.
That was the 14th Frigate Squadron.
Okay.
Which the squadron commander was Captain Bunda. Right? So we...
Anil, can I just come to the war and go to your friend again? What happened on 9th? Can I tell you 3rd to 9th what happened?
Yes,
Please, sir.
Well, let's see. The war has begun. Mysore could not go to Karachi. Vikrant was flying Seahawks and Elysees. Total control of the skies in 5 days. Brahmaputra, Captain Awati, Lieutenant Commander Ramdas, they were looking for submarines. Come on the west coast. Op Trident was executed. Early morning, by happenstance, Air Force goes to hit Kamari. Operation Trident. By the time that night on 4th, IJ Sharma fires his first missile and Khyber is gone down.
PNS Khyber, sir.
Yeah.
Pakistan National.
PNS Khyber has gone
Pakistan
down.
Naval Ship Khyber.
Then Kavina fires his missile and Venus Challenger has gone down. Then INS Veer O.P. Mehta fires his missile. Muhafiz has gone down. That was what was happening in Karachi that day. Operation Trident. And there was Bubru Yadav, Mahavir Chakra, he was with the commander. Kiltan had Captain Gopal Rao. He did not get the message. He didn't turn back. He was going towards Karachi. But then Veer had a problem, and then he saw Veer going back. And of course, there was this war had begun.
Veer is who,
And
sir?
the next 4 days, things happened. And of course, Ghazi went down. Then we came to the figure when a Python took place. Alone, Vinash, Jerath went to Karachi with Talbar and Trishul, Curly Nair and S.S. Kumar. And he told them, keep clear. By now, he was a
Just a
gunnery
moment,
officer. He
sir.
understood
Please,
what to
for
do.
the sake of our new viewers,
Yeah, well,
any
there's
elaboration?
many names, but let me just finish it by telling you what happened to. Next thing that happened was Operation Pride, and Harbatan went down. Dhaka was hit by one ship. That was the best Diwali, Curly Nair said. Unfortunately, we were doing absolute high till on 9th, Khukri went down.
Commodore Sunil Nandan Singh, please resume.
So now we get on to
What were your duties as a midshipman?
pardon, what duties we were doing. Basically, because of the fact that we were technically fit for promotion to acting sub-lieutenants.
Okay.
However, because by time, which is the month of December, had yet to finish. So we continued as midshipmen and kept doing the same duties what we were doing on board any other ship, which is we were assistant to everybody and everybody's captain. Okay. So, but very interesting time, because I had seen a set of officers like then Commander Z. Raju, who was XO of Brahmaputra. CO was Captain Jackson Puri. Now with, very nice officers there. Then we came to the Khukri, again, very nice set of officers. But then, of course, war has its own ways of thing. So anyway, so then we basically everybody's assistant we used to be. And
now please bring us to the day on which you all got hit.
Oh, in between. Okay, fine. Then that is on the 9th evening. We had entered due on the 9th, and we left sometimes in the afternoon. Evening, we were headed westwards, Khukri to the south, Kirpan to the north, and we headed straight westwards. And then at about, and then there used to be that 5-minute news, All India Radio, 8:45 to 8:50, and 8:50 to 8:55, 5-minute capsules. And I was on watch. The complete bridge team was there. We were at action stations, relaxed, because we changed over. The new watchkeepers were on duty, and we were on duty from 8 o'clock till midnight, right? And so that's 8:45 news started, and we were waiting for Python news to come in, the second attack on Karachi. And we were just discussing that when, and I just put on a fix on the radar, and suddenly the radar PPI boomed, brilliant white, and heard the first explosion underwater. The torpedo hit. That happened at 8:50. That's how I know the time. And then, of course, there was, that stunned silence. We could hear breaking noises, and slowly the ship started listing to the starboard side. The stern started going down and bows coming up very slowly. And then there was that usual, the sailors wondering what's happening, the people who are down below trying to come up to see what's happening, people trying to go down to see, pick up their life jackets or something, And we were totally in the darkness because there were no generators, there were no emergency lights. There were emergency lights, but very faint at that time. Anyhow, so we captain was because of the torpedo hit, the captain had got injured. He'd hit one of the torpedoes because of the explosion. He had cut his forehead. So anyhow, he kept sitting and then he kept standing because he couldn't sit anymore. The deck had become vertical on the side, and he started saying, ships and Nikanjao, abandoned ship, abandoned ship. We tried to make all kinds of announcements, but we did manage to pass the word around to say abandoned ship. Then at some point in time, because you really don't know how time moves. But I do know that I left the ship on the port side and I actually stepped off into the water. So you can imagine that more than 2/3 of the ship was already underwater. So I stepped off, got into the water. There were some other sailors who had jumped along with me. Most of the ship's company who could leave the ship abandoned from the starboard side, because that was
From the starboard side.
The starboard side.
Yeah. Right side.
Right
Oh.
side. So those that left with me on the port side, very few sailors, and later on I realized I was the only officer in this group of sailors. And all the other officers and the sailors were mostly jumped from the starboard side. So the usual thing, the worst thing at that point in time was it was very cold. It was December and very cold. And then because of the fact that till now you were comfortable on board, now you're suddenly in the water. It was pretty strong, the wind chill factor. So, and there was that thick oil, furnace fuel oil, which had leaked out from the ship when she was sinking. So through all this, eyes full of oil, trying to make sense to what the hell is happening anyway. So I told these guys, some of the sailors were around, and there was this one white object, looked white, a round cylindrical shape. I said, "Wo dekho, life raft hoga shayad." And sure enough, the chap says, "Haan, ek rassi hai uske saath." So I said, "Khecho phir." So that is where the first of the life rafts, and the only one which we could inflate. And then gradually, people started getting in. And then, of course, at that same time at the back, I could see the ship, the bows going down slowly and disappeared. So I, with this one raft and about 25 sailors, the typical way of, kind of taking charge of the situation. So said, okay, ye raft ka upar cover ke hai, pehle niklo. So got them all out into the sea again, so that the raft could be inflated. Then we started getting inside, and then started the night. So we had one particular sailor. He was obviously an engine room sailor. It's you know, his condition, he definitely had a steam pipe burst behind him. And that is pipe steam at about 850 degrees centigrade. And his shirt was seemed as if his skin was hanging as if, you know, that kind of shirt is torn. He was, you know, tattered hanging. And he was in that sea water with that oil, and he was a pathetic sight. Then whatever light we had in the raft, we had a communication sailor. I remember Chief Tent or somebody who said, "Sab wo submarine agar aayega to humko dekhega night mein." So I said, "Yeah, good idea. Light off karo." So that little light that we had inside the raft also, we switched it off. Took out the seawater battery and switched it off. So,
And how were you all discovered then? What happened thereafter?
so
Who rescued you all, or how can
all that happened next morning. So at night we were hearing this odd aircraft crossing over. Now we had got no means at that point in time for any signaling, etc. On that we found out, or we knew, of course, we had all that, but all that started happening in the morning, early morning. That time we could make out that there are some kind of aircraft and some activity going on. And then, of course, because saw one of these subconis going past. So that is the time when we realized that yes, there are Indian aircraft that are operating in the area. And then, of course, we started signaling. Then that particular sailor, the engine room sailor, who was in a very, very bad condition, so made sure, told him, no, all the that we had, I said, just isko pedate raho. Don't worry about ourselves, we'll manage somehow. So at about 10:15, we saw two ships coming, and then we were picked up by Kirpan, INS Kirpan, who was with us at night when we were hit. And then early morning, he had to come back to pick us up. And Kachan, INS Kachan was also sent off from somewhere around Okha to come and pick up the rest of the survivors, and then started Operation Falcon, Operation Falcon, for avenging the sinking of the Khukri. And thereafter, we were on the Kirpan, helping out whatever, doing whatever normal jobs that we do at sea, other than the one sailor who was very badly injured. And then this Operation Falcon terminated, I think, on the 13th of December, and 14th of December, we came back to Bombay.
And the war ended on 16th.
War ended on the 16th.
16th.
Yeah.
Admiral Bhasin, sir, and Commodore Rai, from both, I'd like, when, at what stages did you all come to know about what happened to INS Khukri?
Well, the operations came to know because Kirpan was there. Admiral Tasneem, the commander of Angkor, had
Angkor,
actually
PNS
reported to Pakistan because his first torpedo went under Kirpan. And R.R. Sood, commander, he left the area because he said, I'll also go down. But it's very well explained, 176 sailors, 8 officers, rest in peace. Kirpan came back later. Life watched Kirpan through. So probably that is what saved the officers and the men who got out, like Manu Sharma and this particular officer. But what had happened is, by now we had no contact with Khukri. Kirpan reported this because they saw the flash. So I was in the operations room. I must say, when the Trident was completed, a signal came, Angar. We did not know what is Angar. There was an exclusive signal. Lieutenant Commander Rai and Madhavendra Singh, we decrypted it. And we rang up Commodore Thapar, the Chief of Staff. And you know what he said? Call up the CNC. No, he said, Chief of Staff and Lieutenant Commander calling up the CNC, war has just started. Well, on fourth night, that was the code word. Missile boats have struck. We didn't know. So we rang up the steward in the house and he said, Saab so raha hai. Usko jaga do. We said, jaga do, hoping we won't get a big. Admiral Kohli picked up the phone and we said, sir, signal has come, exclusive, Angar. It was an amazing thing. He banged the phone and both of us said, boy, we are in trouble. But the next thing saw is 6 minutes later, in pajama kurta, Admiral Kohli was in the operations room celebrating Operation Trident. But when Khukri went down, the mood went down. And that is a sad day for the Indian Navy, never to be repeated again.
And Bhasin sir, where exactly were you when?
I was in Bombay. We came to know about it the next day itself.
No, you were on shore or not on board?
Ashore. No, I was
ashore.
not on board.
Ashore. Your main job of putting the missile boats together was over. Okay. Sunil, what are your were you one of those who saw Captain Mahendranath Mullah on the stern of the ship?
I was with him throughout.
Oh,
because I was on the bridge throughout, and I must have been perhaps the last person who saw him, and he was on the bridge.
No, but I think it deserves mention. The way what we've been hearing, we were in the Indian Military Academy cursing our fate that why are we stuck here? We wish we could have been in the war also. But following all the news reports, it was very touching for all of us to hear that here the captain of the only Indian naval ship to be hit and to get destroyed, who went down with it in the highest of naval traditions. But also, I think one which even the British, who instituted maybe such traditions, even they started getting second thoughts. Why should they lose a trained, experienced, a naval officer in such a way in that they should start I think a process was a thought process was initiated then that don't go down with the ship.
Yeah, this is what they had started at some point in time, but I don't know, somehow if you ask me, my personal feeling that Captain Munda had decided that I am not coming out. I am going to stay on board.
No, that's a very, very, very fine, very noble, very brave decision. But Commodore Rai, sir, you heard over the years, you've spoken a lot, you've educated a lot of people, including foreigners, what's been going on here, what happened in 1971. Tell me could you highlight some of the reactions of, say, the Americans?
Well, you know that Enterprise Admiral Zumwalt was given an order to go to Bay of Bengal with the Enterprise and the task force. And Admiral Zumwalt asked, what is my task? Every military man wants a name. They said, we will tell you later. And he said those famous words, I will not put my ship in harm's way. So he turned around the ships. Then Admiral Reva, the Chairman Chiefs of Staff, United States Joint Chiefs, gave the order, go to Bay of Bengal. You must know Soviet Union Admiral Gorshkov was watching, and they were tracking these ships. At that time, they thought of the peace treaty, which B.P. Dhar and others and Huxer had put together. And he told Vladimir Krotolovov, the admiral of the 10th Battle Fleet, please immediately go and track Enterprise. So Enterprise turned back. I was lucky to go to Naval War College, the new Naval Academy, to give a lecture on this subject, because it came out much later, which Mrs. Gandhi also came to know, and therefore she wanted nuclear submarines, because she saw the power of a nuclear submarine coming behind Enterprise and sending it away. That is why the day the American Navy began respecting the Indian Navy, because when Mrs. Gandhi was told Enterprise is coming, she asked Admiral Nanda, what do we do? And it is said, Admiral Nanda said, they are too strong. I've told my people not to get involved. Call their captains for a drink on board, because
There
they
you
have
said
no
it,
liquor
sir.
on board.
I was waiting for this to come out. Admiral Bhasin sir, this is also something which, I think is mentioned in Admiral Nanda's book, and also spoken about that the message of Admiral Charles Nanda to all commanding officers of all ships was, if they come too close to you, invite them over for a drink. Which considering, and we won't go into what all there are some other American very senior politicians had to say about what we did or what Mrs. Indira Gandhi did. But I think what matters here is that is to bring out that for after decades of the Indian political bureaucratic establishment being sea blind, we finally got a leader who said, no, the Navy, we've got a 7,000 long coastline, 7,000 kilometer long coastline. We've got a Navy. I think it must be put to use. And there you are, and and I think it also laid down a kind of a reputation that don't take the Indian Navy, lightly. And which I think, am I right in saying, sir, that it's helped us manage the sea lane of the Indian Ocean more, sort of effectively?
Well, absolutely right.
No, I think Commodore Ranjit Rai should speak on this.
No, absolutely right. It's a small Navy, but with the BrahMos missile, the Barak missiles, and the ship like Vishakhapatnam and the Arihant and soon the Arighat, it's a small Navy, but the very competent for the Indian Ocean. It can stop the Malacca Straits, etc. But I will not go into that except to tell you that, yes, there has been a lot of talk about General Manekshaw, because politicians always use the military for political ends. And we should be very proud that Admiral Nanda, General Manekshaw, General Jacobs dash to Dhaka, all this is now coming out when we are celebrating 50 years of that war. People are telling you what a great victory. And of course, the Navy's first war.
No doubt, sir. No doubt. Any of you gentlemen would like to add anything on the Navy's role in the 1971 war?
Basically, I wanted to know, why didn't we use the Navy in 65, period?
Well, it's an excellent question. It's a very, very, it's a question a lot of us analysts have, asked. That's why I used the term sea blind. We were sea blind. And I think Pakistan Navy was active in 1965, but the only damage it did was, I believe, one cow.
One cow, yeah, in off
One cow
Yeah,
on the Gujarat coast,
yeah, off Okha, yeah,
Dwarka.
yeah.
I must give you the answer. You've asked a question. Lal Bahadur Shastri, the Prime Minister, was new. The cabinet was new. They did not know what the Navy can do. And of course, the Army was taking charge. Last minute, Air Chief Marshal Arjun Singh was brought in. So the Navy was told, be careful. They've got a submarine called Ghazi. We had no submarine in 65. So I've given you the answer that in 1971, they learned what the Navy can do. And
Sure.
even today, the Navy is important. I salute you on Khukri. You did your best. I'm sure you remember Kundan Mal, J.K. Suri, I played squash with. And I would love to send you my book, Warring Navies, to tell you, the book will tell you what happened in 65 and why we could not take part. It was not the Navy's fault. Admiral Soman went 3 times to say, please cancel Sarin's order, Joint Secretary's order. But he was told
Very
that
good.
this is a cabinet order.
Well, it's a anyway, I think one more person who we must mention here is Major General Ian Cardoso, who is like we use the term in service slang, pongos. He and I think we have pongos who've been stepping into the waters now and then, because there's a great book he's written on the INS Khukri, which I think deserves mention here. Gentlemen, it was a great pleasure and very, very educative.
Anil,
to have you all
I
on
would
board.
like to add something, if you
Yeah,
let me
please,
for a couple of
please.
minutes.
Please.
I would like, I mean, it's a follow-up of the 71 ops. I would like to tell you that during this period, the Navy learned a lots of lessons and devoted a lot of its time to Atmanirbharta at that time itself, not right now. In 71 onwards, we started off with Atmanirbharta. Okay, you may realize this from the fact that immediately post the 71 ops, there were 3 major projects started in the country. One for the Army, one for the Navy, and one for the Air Force. The Army project was the tank. Then the Air Force project was the LCA. And for the Navy, there was the nuclear submarine in sight. Out of 3 projects, I must tell you, the only one which saw the end of the tunnel was the Navy project. And it was because Navy realized that it has to survive on its own. And Atmanirbharta, which we are talking these days so much, actually started by the Navy at this juncture of time itself. And we are very proud of it for all the decisions taken by our superiors in this subject. Would you like any question on that?
Oh, no, sir. Thank you very much for bringing that out. I think today the Navy the country also can feel quite satisfied. The Navy can feel proud because there we finally put our dockyards to good use. There are a number of ships now which are being used in the Indian Navy, which are made in India.
Yeah, you're right. You appreciated it well.
So there's
Commodore Rai, you would like to add something?
Commodore Rai, sir, anything you would
Yes.
like to add?
Well, as you possibly know, there are 40 ships on order by the Navy. Only 2 are in Yantar, the advanced Krivak class. Even they are going to get our Indian equipment on board 40%. What are lacking in India is engines because we don't have the numbers. But Indian Navy is on the move. The budget was cut because of Ladakh. But I hope as the country's economy improves and we don't have any more setbacks, the Navy will get a larger budget than just 14% when it used to get 22% of the defense budget.
No, I think what happened about last year, it's unavoidable. The kind of purchases we had to make for maintaining the Indian Army on, let's say, mirror deployment of the People's Liberation Army, to have an effective mirror deployment to counter the Chinese People's Liberation Army. I think whatever we spend, that is just as well, and we should not have at all, hesitated at all, and that because that is the only language that this hegemonic and what not else Chinese Communist Party and the People's Liberation Army understand. Gentlemen, it was great having you on board. Thank you for all the very valuable inputs. Thank you. All the best.
Thank
Jai
you for
Hind.
having us. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.